Hello, today I'm going to talk about how to make custom free-range cocktail tables that you're very unlikely to find in the shop. Before we start, however, let's just have a quick look and see what I mean by free-range furniture. There are 7 design rules or guidelines, which I prefer, this is less prescriptive, that define free-range furniture. The first one is to not have an overall project plan in detail when you start. Design the project as it progresses. A little bit of make it up as you go along and maybe change some of the ideas you have as you go along. The second one is, if possible, be unconventional. It isn't always possible to be unconventional, but if you can be, it's worth a shot. The third one is use second-hand wood. This is not only an economic advantage in the sense it's an awful lot cheaper, but it's also good for the environment to reuse things. So if you can use the wood that's available in your garage or shed or workshop, that's a good thing. I find that local skips and neighbours as well have been very helpful in terms of providing me with wood for these projects. The fourth one is make the available wood influence the design. So if you have pieces of wood which allow you to do certain things, then that will obviously influence the way you design your project. One of the things you can do is incorporate parts of other furniture that you may have dismantled, if it's appropriate. And the sixth one is, don't feel constrained to using only one type of wood. It can really be quite attractive to have different bits of wood or different species of wood available to you. And then the last one's a really rather important one. Feel free to ignore all the above rules if it suits you. Okay, this means that there are really no rules, but it's just more a philosophy which you can follow. So let's look at cocktail tables. There's one here, a picture of one here, and you can see it's quite tall. It doesn't look particularly stable. And one of the things you want to do with a free-range table would be to try and make it different or striking in some respects. And this table is certainly not what you would normally see. So it has some elements of free range in it. But one of the things we do need to worry about is, how do we make them stable? They are tall and thin, and we need to really just have a quick look at that aspect. So this table is actually made from an IKEA oak blockboard worktop, and this dimension here is the thickness of the worktop here, and this bit here, this bit, and this bit here are all made from that IKEA worktop. Top bits where the table is are made of some mahogany, which I think came off some old shelves from a piece of wood that I had lying around in the garage. So the wood cost absolutely nothing. About the only thing that cost was glue and some dowel and some gloss varnish. So the take-home message on the stability of the table is to make the base as large as possible. So if you extend legs out like this, it's much more stable in this direction. We know that it's less so. So making the table legs at the bottom come out this wide would certainly make it more stable. And in fact, if you wanted to, make the base like this, just turn the table upside down, and that's would make the table really stable. So big base or putting more weight near the bottom of the table will improve its stability. So the next thing to think about is the cocktail tabletop. You can see we've got a pretty standard looking tabletop on this one here. But if you want to make the tabletop appear not to be level, you can simply make it non-rectangular. And the next two pictures of tables will demonstrate this. This is example 1 here, and here's example 2. So there's a summary of table design options in terms of the base and the tabletop here that we've got already. We'll use this, what we're calling a low cocktail table, to add a few other features which you could think about putting into your design.
But another option for the top of the table is to cut out these little slots that you can see for wine glasses. You can also go a little closer and see that you can paint a pattern on the top and then put the varnish over the top, which works well. So there's lots of options, and this is really just a cocktail table with very short legs. And you can see, because it's outside, it's got the dowels on the bottom just to lift the bottom off the flags, so it doesn't get wet, dries out.
So I made a jig that looks a bit like this here. I made it using a hole saw, which made this hole there, and then I used a table saw to just take this bit out here. And so I made a jig like that, and then that, with the router, that was an easy matter to get all the shapes looking exactly the same. Although with a little bit of care, I'm sure you could do it with this and the table saw if you haven't got access to a router. So there's always different ways to do things. So we've looked at lots of options for tabletops and legs and bases. You can combine those anyway in any number that you wish, and add other things of your own design in there as well. What I want to do now is go on and talk about what I'm calling 2 dowel combos or combinations, which are in the bottom right hand side of the screen, where you're putting a dowel in a concentrically down another dowel. I've used these quite a lot, and what they're very good for is replacement feet for outdoor furniture. They just lift the article off the ground, and when it rains, the whole leg dries off, and if anything's going to rot, it'll be the dowels, and they can easily be replaced. So as feet for outdoor furniture, they've turned out to be very good. It's also, once you've made the table, if you put these on each leg, you can then ensure the table doesn't rock, and you can also use them to increase the table height as well. And if you look at the picture of the legs at the bottom, sorry, the top right hand side of the screen, where the yellow circles are, you can see where the dowels have been used to add a little bit of feature to the table legs. So the remainder of this video gives you some suggestions about how to drill the hole in the center of the dowel to get made, and it's probably worthwhile reminding you, and I'm sure many people know this, that if you have 3 legs, furniture never rocks. So thinking about using 3 legs is a good strategy.
Some of the coffee tables require effectively some dowel cut like this with a hole through the middle, and I've made a little jig up which I'll show you for making this a little bit easier to do. You want to get a piece of wood something like this here and drill a hole in it that's the diameter of the dowel, and then if you have it clamped in place, then when you put the drill for the dowel in, it'll automatically be lined up with the center of this dowel. So if you have a clamp like this, you might want to use this to hold the piece of wood. In the example I'm going to give, I'm going to clamp this on with some quick release clamps. So first thing would be to drill this hole and obviously put in the drill which has the right dimension for the hole that's required. The next step is to drill the hole in the piece of wood that we're going to use as a jig. This is the hole that's there already, and that's now aligned up with the hole there. So we drill the hole in the piece of wood. We then obviously remove the drill bit. Now we want to put this drill bit in. So we'll tighten up the drill within the chuck. Pop the disc in here. And drill the holes. And here you can see the dowel actually in the hole. So if I wanted to join these two pieces of wood together with a couple of dowels, I'd take my jig, pop it on here, clamp it in position so it's aligned to this reference point here, drill holes. In this case if it was the big ones, there are 2 holes there. Now I then want to make sure the holes on this are aligned up with the ones there. So if I was to take the piece of wood and line it up here and drill the holes here and here, if I kept it all clamped, then that would make sure that the holes in this would line up
the one here. That's how I've done all the hidden dowels, using simple jigs like this. Now one of the things you do have to try and do is make sure that the holes in here, the two pieces of wood, are actually at 90 degrees. And I have done that using a hand drill, but I find sometimes I've got to make the dowel holes a little bit bigger just to allow the thing to align up properly. Now something that I've bought recently, which is this here, nice because it allows you to do things portably, and the drill, when it goes down, always goes down at 90 degrees in both this plane and that plane. In other words, it's vertical the whole time. So let's wrap up. Well, first of all, thanks very much for watching. It's much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it. I presented a number of design options for creating free-range cocktail table designs. It's up to you how much or how little of this you incorporate into your designs. I would say a really cool table is one which has an identical top and base. There's not many of those around in the world. If you don't like any more details, because I haven't really gone into real details in terms of how things were fabricated, or if you want some further clarifications, please do get in contact via the comments. Thanks once again for watching.